And we're back. I bet you all missed us. We took a little break in the summer, but now we're back. And here we have Sean, who's going to talk a lot about Canadians investing in the US, set up for real estate success. And I think YouTube is giving us problems, but that's okay. That sometimes happens. So we're live on LinkedIn, we're live on Facebook, and we'll upload this to YouTube once this is done. So before we get started, I want Sean to introduce himself, tell us a little bit about what he does, and then we'll get into it. Welcome, Sean.
All right, Miri. Well, thank you so much for having me. It's great to be on to chat law for Canadians who are investing in the U.S. And we'll see if we can make it edutational, as I like to say. And yeah, we'll have some fun.
Awesome. All right, cool. So let's get started with some questions that we already have that people have asked before. So what does the Prosperous Law, what is that? What does that mean?
Yeah, well, great question. So Prosper Us Law is a law firm, or the law firm for real estate investors in Ontario. And if you're out there and you're tuning in, you might wonder what an Ontario law firm has to do with investing in the U.S. And the answer is quite a bit, because you've got to have things set up on the Canadian side to be able to hold stuff on the U.S. side. So I'll tell you a little bit about Prosper Us. It's a law firm that's been going for a few months now. I created it to solely focus on the relatively unique needs of real estate investors. And I did this because I am a real estate investor first, before I became a lawyer. I actually began investing in real estate by house hacking when I was in law school. And then don't tell the bank, but I used my line of credit for law school to put the down payment down on a second property when I was doing my business degree, which I did with my law degree. And actually just sold that property last week. I've had it for a number of years and it did very well for me. And sort of took off on real estate investing from there. And so what I saw in the marketplace was a number of people in the real estate space who were investing, but not overly happy with their legal team,
Right.
because their legal team, understands the law, but not necessarily the business of real estate investing. And so I wanted to have impact on the lives and businesses of real estate investors by really taking the law component away from being just a necessary component and really transform it into a value add component. And that's the story behind Prosper Us Law.
That's awesome. Okay, so for anybody who's watching, Investing Across Borders, Lauren Cohen, we're in the Canadian group on Facebook and on Lauren's LinkedIn. So what happens is that people come to us because they want to invest in the US. So what Sean just said is that just as important it is to set up your entity the right way here in the US, you have to set up yourself for success in Canada so that you can take that step. So okay, so let's talk a little bit more about this because you help Canadians investing in the US, correct?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. So what are the top three things that Canadians should keep in mind from the Canadian perspective before investing in the US?
Okay. Well, the first thing that immediately jumps to mind, you've sort of hinted at it just a moment ago, and that is get off of YouTube and get into the calendar of someone like Lauren, because I've seen plenty of pseudo legal advice and accounting advice from the gurus out there, and frankly, unless you are a legal or tax professional, it's sort of dangerous to be advising, because every situation is unique. We can generally, as professionals in this industry, classify people depending on what might be most important to them. But just because one particular route worked for one person doesn't mean it's the right or advisable thing for someone else, which is why I say get off of YouTube and get into the calendar of someone like Lauren. And Lauren and I work together to help uh, Canadians set themselves up on both sides of the 49th parallel, so that we're not paying double tax, we're not putting our personal assets at risk, And so we're maximizing our cash flow so we can achieve financial freedom, which is what we set out to do in the first place. So that's number one. Number two is, just like you should get off of YouTube about your US structure, it's sort of the same on the Canadian side as well. Whether it's me or another law firm that helps people, it's really important that you set up your corporate structure on the Canadian side properly so that we can accomplish a number of things. Number one, we can avoid double taxation. Number two, we can protect our personal assets here in Canada. Number three, we can control our income so that we only pay the amount of personal income tax that we need to. We don't have to pay on gratuitous amounts that are earned by our US system. And there are a few other reasons to set up a corporate structure on the Canadian side. Wealth transfer to further generations, estate planning. These are all capital raising. These are all reasons to have your structure set up properly and have good tax, lending, and legal advice before you make a decision on which way to go. So that's number two. Number three would be, connect with other Canadians investing in the US. Get to know the people on their power team. Understand, how others have helped. I'm a big proponent of my favorite book, likely of all time, Who Not How.
I can barely see it.
There we go. Kind of. Anyways, Who Not How. So Who Not How, the premise is very simple. Stop asking how to do things and start asking who can help me. I do it in my business, actually in all of them. And I encourage all of my clients to start asking who, so that they can focus on the things that are taking up their highest and best use, which would be things like finding more deals, connecting with more lenders, connecting with more money partners, really spending their time putting together deals, and let the professionals handle the logistics.
That totally makes sense. And if anybody has any questions, I know we have some people watching on LinkedIn. Abdullah Rahman, sorry if I mispronounce your name, but thank you for being here. And on Facebook as well, if anybody has any questions, let us know. Just like Sean said, we work with Sean. So we refer clients to Sean so that he can help them set up their structure in Canada. And then the team here at Investing Across Borders, Lauren Cohen, we help them to find the deals or whatever it is that they need, depending on like whether it's a full service, meaning they need a visa or whatever it is, or just real estate. We help them, point them in the right direction so we can make that happen. So team, please put in the chat the consult link so that people can reach out to us. And then depending on where you're at, we will connect you to the right people, like Sean, for example. If you're Canadian, of course. If you're Mexican, that would not work, right? So that's why you got to talk to us first so that we can really understand where you're coming from and what your needs are, and then we'll connect you to the right people. And I love that concept, Sean, what you said about, like, don't worry how you're going to do it, just worry about who you're going to connect with to make that happen. That's key. That's really key. So that's awesome. So what are Canadians generally doing from the Canadian perspective, like in your experience?
Yeah, another good question. Generally, we're seeing people own their U.S. structures in a 1 or 2 tier Canadian corporate structure, and whether to go with a 1 tier or 2 will be dependent on a number of individual factors, like what are you using the income for? Is it wealth generation, or is this how you're paying your personal expenses? It can depend on how you want to transfer wealth to any further generations. It can depend on what you own here already in Ontario or elsewhere in the country. And so that's generally what we're seeing. We'll also look at people's 5 and 10 year plans, right? Where are they growing? Is this, are we just trying out this US thing, or are we all in? Are we all in still on Canadian real estate, or are we sort of shifting our focus for the next 5 to 10 years on US investing? There's a number of questions. We work collaboratively with tax advisors, asset protection advisors, and a number of other people to help create a customized solution. for that Canadian who's looking to invest south of the border. Some people want family trusts, right? We might see a family trust at the top, owning a 1 or 2 tier Canadian structure, so that that money that's generated is held in trust for the beneficiaries. Some people will want to raise capital, and so we might see the inclusion of limited partnerships as well. So these are all, potential things, and there's more, obviously, to consider as a Canadian. And depending on how advanced you are and how deep you're going, these are conversations that you should probably be having with your spouse, your business partners, and then your power team.
Yeah, that's very, very important, because it's not just a one size fits all. And you mentioned like people watching YouTube videos and stuff like that. We also get people who say, yeah, my neighbor, invested here, and he was able to do it with this, so I probably should just follow that. But obviously, they don't know the information that about their neighbor. It might not be exactly the same. So that's why it's important to always ask and to have people on your team, not just because XYZ person did it one way, you might consider doing it the same. You might not know exactly everything about them and what they're not telling you. So that's
That's right.
why all of the different options that you've given us are so important, because right, like it doesn't, you don't know if they're looking for wealth generation and to leave money for their kids that are in Canada, or you just don't know, right? So unless it's exactly the same, and you could get into trouble, right? So that's why it's important that you always check. Now, what about financing? That's something that people are always asking about, and I think it's important to mention it. But before you answer that question, if anybody has any questions, feel free to put them in the chat. We'll be able to hopefully answer some of them. Okay. All right. Yeah, Sean, let's talk about financing.
Okay. Well, when it comes to financing U.S. properties, generally that's a U.S. based discussion. But we can, as Canadians, there are some things we can do. So number one, we could refinance an existing property in Canada, pull the equity out, and shareholder loan that money down into our U.S. structure. Or you could sell an asset in the same way. That unlocks equity, which gives you some seed or startup capital to be able to get into a purchase. Maybe you've got to buy the first couple in cash until you say you do get that E2 visa, or until you have access to U.S. credit. Second, you can borrow unsecured money in Canada, or I guess in the U.S., money that's not secured to real property anywhere. You might see this more from family and friends, because raising unsecured money from strangers is both difficult and can be dangerous if you don't have the proper review of the terms in advance to make sure you're not being taken advantage of. There's also one lender that I know of, and Lauren and I are working together on really bringing this lender to the forefront for Canadians. But they're creating, in essence, a secured lending product, so a mortgage for Canadians investing in the U.S., which, Lauren and you, Mary, would probably agree would be tremendously valuable until you get that visa. And if the visa route is not the route you're going, then having the ability to put a mortgage on in the U.S. With Canadian credit only is valuable.
Yeah, definitely. And I think the team put the consult link, or they're about to put the consult link in there, because just like Sean mentioned, there's a lot of different options and a lot of things that go into it. So, Sean, what else can you tell us about, some of your clients? And obviously don't mention any names, but kind of like a typical example of how, we refer someone to you, and then what happens?
Well, generally I get on a call with them first, or someone on my team, and we sort of try to understand their strategy. Number one, what are they doing in the US? Are they BRRRR investors? Are they flippers? Are they buying large commercial multifamily? Are they developing? What are they doing and what are their goals? Right. So we generally start with this so that we get a sense of, what's the motivation, and because that can impact how we help, how we create that impact that we're looking to create. After that, we'll generally try and either have a conversation with their Canadian tax advisor, and generally at least one US advisor, so that everybody who's helping is on the same page. I don't like to do anything or make any recommendations that are not holistic, because I can, we're lawyers, so I can easily, and my team can easily spout off all the reasons to do X, Y, or Z. But that's really just a legal perspective.
Right.
And for me, it's much more important that our clients have a holistic view of tax, borrowing, and legal, so that they're making an informed choice about how to proceed. And once we have those conversations, then we get to work. We set their structure up, and if we have to have more calls about it, we do. Get shareholders agreements in place if we need to, limited partnership agreements, family trusts, whatever it might be. That's the final step. So at the end, the client is left with a Canadian structure that's in place to own the US structure. That is a structure which meets their objectives, and is generally created with a holistic viewpoint.
Got it. How long does this process take?
It varies. Oftentimes, clients need time to consider what's most important to them. Some people are risk adverse. Some people are tax adverse. Most people are both. Sometimes you have to choose which one is more important. So it can take a couple of weeks. It can take a few days if we're all on board and we know exactly what we're doing. It can take longer. It really depends on how things go down.
Yeah, makes sense. Okay. So, do you think that people, when they invest in the US, we've seen a lot of people um, come to the US, buy real estate, and then they're like, oh, wait, I need to have something in place. It doesn't make sense what I'm doing. And a lot of people work backwards. So, I mean, it
Yes.
goes back to what we were saying before, but if accidentally people come to the US and they're about to buy a property, or maybe they're getting close to the closing date. Obviously, they need to contact you before all this happens. But what are some of the penalties or things that you've seen that could happen, if they're already in that situation?
Well, everything that is not an individual needs an owner. So what I mean by that is, every time you create a corporation, there must be shareholders. And if those shareholders are corporations, then they have owners all the way until we get to the top, which is going to be an individual, a human. And so what this means is, if the human owns the US structure personally and we need to restructure later, then there is going to need to be some form of transaction taking place. Right? So
Mhm.
the human has to transact or sell or transfer their ownership of the US structure to their Canadian structure. So this can be done in a couple of ways, some of which have tax consequences and some of which don't. But either way, there is a cost to get it done. There's a tax consultation, there's a legal consultation, then there's the legal fees themselves to actually affect the work, whether it's a transfer or whether it's a rollover or whatever it might be. And so we can avoid these things generally by setting up our structures in advance. Of course, whether you set it up in advance or later, it's going to be generally the same cost unless there's a super rush.
Yeah.
But the work to move things over would be an additional cost. It's completely avoidable if we plan in advance.
Yeah, totally. And that's probably what you want to do. But um, if you're in a situation, because I know I can speak to a lot of people who do this, if you're in a situation that you are watching this and you're worried about what's happening because you went ahead and you crossed the border and you saw an amazing opportunity and you actually bought it, just take care of it right now. Now you know that you need this, so go ahead and take care
Right.
of this right now. So, okay, Sean. So I want to remind people because we have a few more minutes to discuss this. I want to remind everybody that we do have a masterclass coming up on September 21st. So the team is going to drop the link and it's free to attend. We're going to really go deep into a lot of the real estate cross-border issues that might come up. So you definitely want to be there. Is investingacrossborders.net/masterclass. And Lauren obviously is going to be there. She's going to be presenting a lot. Um, what we have presented in the past, but there's also new information that we always bring to our master classes, and it's free. It's free. So you definitely want to sign up because you need to have the Zoom link so and you can attend. Okay, so that's happening on September 21st. And we're also going to have another guest, I think, next week for our Investing Across Border show here. So just to remind you guys, every single Thursday we're here. We took a few weeks off. I had a baby and there was the summer and everything, but we're back. Okay. Now, Sean, is there anything else that you want to share that maybe we didn't talk about that is important to mention before we go?
Well, the important point that I wanted to get across today is to really connect with Lauren. We work together, and Lauren works with a number of people. If you're watching this and you're investing in the U.S. and you're Canadian, you don't know what you don't know, and YouTube just is not a good enough resource to rely on when it comes to important decisions that could cost you tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars. So, the links are in the chat. I can see them come up. Get on a call with Lauren, because it would be a tragedy, and we've seen it, where someone gets set up, gets cash flowing, and then after they pay the tax in both countries, they got nothing left. So all their hard work, all their money invested, they got nothing to show for it.
Yeah.
So that's not good. That's not what we want, and that's not how to scale a real estate portfolio for Canadian investing in the US. So, I've been working with Lauren for a while now. Lauren's awesome. She's great to hang out with. She's great to have a consultation with. And you've really got nothing to lose if US investing is the way to go.
Yeah, totally. And we're here to help. Lawrence, we're so committed to our clients and we're going to do the best we can to get you protected. Obviously we can't talk about guarantees because that never happens. And as lawyers, Sean is a lawyer, I'm not a lawyer. So, but Sean is a lawyer and obviously he's not going to guarantee anything. Lauren never guarantees anything, but you don't want to take a chance. And, it's better that you contact us, then we'll help you through the process than going online, watching some videos and doing exactly what your friend Samantha did for her business when you don't even know about her business or what that entails. So that's why we're here. We're here to help. We're here to be able to make your dreams a reality and make your American dream. Even if you don't want to get a visa, that's okay. If you want to invest in real estate, we're here to help as well. So you don't have to do one or the other or both. We're here to help either way. So Sean, thank you so much for coming along and for sharing all of these insights. I think it was super important for people to know. We really thank you. And just a reminder again, we have every Thursday. I think the 21st might actually be a Thursday, but whenever we don't have a masterclass, we most likely will have either a watch party or an interview or something in here moving forward. So thank you all for watching. Sean, last words?
Thanks for having me on, Mary. This was fun. It's the opportunity to create impact on others and their lives and their businesses is what gets me up in the morning and keeps me up late at night. So thank you for having me on.
That's awesome. I love that, Sean. Thank you so much. All right, everyone. We'll see you next time in the Investing Across Border Show. Bye bye.